Welcome back to the channel. But before I get started, I want to say thank you to the new subscribers who have decided to listen to me yap for a while. This is episode 1. Nothing about this is new. You just weren't meant to see the pattern. Ever notice how people keep calling what's happening right now unexpected? Like this all just showed up out of nowhere, like systems just broke overnight. And I always pause when I hear that because I'm trying to figure out unexpected to who? Because when something is truly unexpected, it doesn't repeat itself. It doesn't leave patterns behind. It doesn't keep showing up in different forms across different years and different situations. It just happens once and people are caught off guard. But that's not what we're looking at. What we're watching right now has been happening, not always in the same way, not always with the same language, not always with the same faces, but the structure of it, the outcome of it, the way it lands, that part has been consistent. And I think that's where people get tripped up because we've been trained to recognize moments, but not patterns. A moment will grab you, a headline, a clip, a policy change, something that hits your day to day life and you respond to it. That's normal. That's human. But patterns require something different. Patterns require you to slow down, to remember, to compare, to ask yourself, have I seen this before? And if you've been paying attention even just a little bit, you already know the answer is yes. It may not look identical, but it feels familiar. And that feeling, that's not random because systems don't repeat themselves word for word, they repeat themselves structurally. So what you're seeing now isn't new behavior, it's familiar behavior, just presented in a way that makes it easier to dismiss if you're not looking closely. And once you do start looking closely, something shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening? And start asking, why does this keep happening this way? That's a different question and it leads to different answers because now you're not reacting anymore. You're observing. And when you observe long enough, you start to notice the gap between what's said and what's done. On paper, things often look neutral, balanced, sometimes even protective. The language sounds right, the intent sounds right. But when you look at how those same policies are enforced and the outcome tells a different story, access gets filtered, timelines get stretched, protections get applied in ways that aren't consistent. And somehow, almost predictably, the same groups end up carrying the weight of those inconsistencies over and over again. And at some point, you have to pause and ask yourself, if the outcome is this predictable, is it really accidental? That's not an emotional question. That's a logical one because systems are built to produce outcomes, not random ones, constant ones. So if you keep seeing the same outcome, even when the details change, even when the language changes, even when the people involved change, then the question becomes, what is the system actually designed to do? Not what it says it does, what it does. There's a difference. And I know that's uncomfortable, but it forces you to rethink what you were taught to trust. We were taught that systems exist to protect, that laws create fairness, that institutions operate with neutrality. But if that were fully true, we wouldn't keep circling back to the same conversation every generation, different decade, same issue, different names, same impact. That's not failure, that's pattern. And the pattern tells the truth in a way headlines never will, because headlines are moments, patterns are evidence. And once you start paying attention to patterns, you also start paying attention to language, the words that get used, the words that don't, what gets emphasized, what gets minimized, what gets explained away, because language doesn't just describe reality, it shapes how you understand it. So when something happens and the explanation feels incomplete or overly simplified or just slightly off, that's not something to brush past. That's your signal to ask another question, not a louder one, a better one. And that's the approach I'm taking here. Not telling you what to think, not trying to force a conclusion, but asking the kind of questions that make it harder to ignore what's right in front of you. Because when people are asked to explain a system honestly, when they have to walk through the logic of it, The contradictions don't hide very well. They show up. And once they show up, you can't unsee them. And that's the part people don't always say out loud. Once you recognize the pattern, you don't just watch differently, you move differently. You stop being surprised by outcomes that were always predictable. You stop reacting late to things that were already in motion. And you stop internalizing situations that were never random to begin with. Because when something feels random, people blame themselves. They think they missed something. They think they should have done something differently. But when you recognize a pattern, you understand that what you're looking at is bigger than a single moment. That doesn't remove accountability where it belongs, but it does remove confusion where it doesn't. And clarity changes how you navigate everything. So, no, this isn't about panic. It's not about fear. And it's definitely not about convincing you that something is broken, because broken implies it stopped working. And what we're looking at right now is a system that has been working exactly as designed. The question is, now that you can see it, what are you going to do with that information? Because once you recognize the pattern, you don't get to go back to not seeing it. And that's where this starts. The system didn't fail. The system was the warning.